Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. All daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including $40 5% best bets. As an added bonus, all new users will receive $25 in wager bucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.
Welcome, everybody, to Wager Talk Today. It's Monday, July 12th. I'm Lawrence Presman. That man is Steve Merril, and Teddy is on a 3-week break, or is it I'm on a 3-week break? Thanks for sitting in, Steve. We're going to be hanging out for the next 3 weeks, minus tomorrow, as I am going hydrofoiling, and you are going to be working with Robert Vino.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I love to watch you hydrofoil. It's actually pretty cool. You got to send me some pictures and videos. I was amazed by that the other week. I was not too familiar with that. And then I love hanging out with Rob Vino as well. So it's a win-win for all of us tomorrow, Prez.
Well, the other week I sent you pictures of me wake surfing, which is very different to hydrofoiling, but the same balance and same sort of body movement. But hydrofoiling is way more fun. It's on like a 2-foot fin, and it raises right above the water.
That's the Facebook
feel like you're
thing.
flying.
You see Zuckerberg during that on the 4th of July at a big American flag. That was
except he did.
Cool.
Yeah, he's not very good at it though. But it comes with a remote control. You get it up to about 40 miles an hour. I mean, it's just
how
it's
difficult is it to stay on?
I'm an athletic guy, so I've always been, pretty good at any sport I try, never really good at anything. So for me, it's about balance. I'm a skier and a skater. So for me, it was a 45-minute learning curve. I think based on what we talk about, I think you'd pick it up within an hour. And
I never had the skateboarding background. I've done a little skiing, but I've never had the snowboarding, skateboarding background. So I was wondering if that might hinder me a little bit. But it looked pretty cool.
It's funny. I never skateboarded at all. I was like Mr. Not Skateboarder. So yeah, I'm with you. Anyway, Andy Lang today, Matt Joseph. We're talking literally the MLB All-Star break. I do want to make mention that it is $9 Mondays at Wager Talk and some sports memo, but WagerTalk.com. And there are plays. I mean, there's rugby up, there's soccer up. But hey, in a couple of days, it's going to be a bit quiet, man. That's okay. We need it, Steve. It's always good to recharge the battery.
Yeah, it's funny, though. It's not quite as quiet as it normally would be. Baseball used to always take Monday and Wednesday off. Those are the only two. That was the old joke. What are the 2 days of the year when there's no sports, no major sports? It was always Monday and Wednesday before the All-Star break. And then in recent years, we got the WNBA, which, by the way, they go on a break now for the Olympics after yesterday. So they're off this week.
Yeah.
I checked the schedule, Prez, being the studious co-host I am for the next few weeks. We could get ski on maybe to do some WNBA, but there's no game. So that was the only reason I checked that. And but now with the NBA Finals in July for the first time in history, we got Game 4 Wednesday. So Wednesday would have been dark. There would have been absolutely nothing. The NBA saved us. And, of course, we knew there was going to be a Game 4, but now we know there will also be a Game 5. And the Bucks bounced back in a big way, of course, last night. Baseball does resume on Thursday. The Yankees-Red Sox is one game, and then a full card Friday. So, yeah, I mean, tonight's really the only night there's not technically a game, but as we'll get to in a little bit, I mean, the Home Run Derby, and we've got the two prop masters, Matt Josephs and Andy Lang. I actually really like the Home Run Derby. And from a handicapping perspective and a betting perspective, as you know, Prez, it's gotten pretty big over recent years.
Yeah, I've never betted in my life. I tend, when we get to this stage of the year, it's like, even if, I just don't want to handicap it, and right. Even if somebody said to me, like, bet this or bet that, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to look. I want the time off, to be honest with you. I need the damn time off, frankly. Anyway.
Yeah.
What did we learn?
It's important to recharge, as you know.
What did we learn in the wonderful world of sports betting this past weekend? Anything stand out to you?
Well, I mean, as far as the baseball goes, of course, we'll talk about the NBA, but as far as the baseball goes, you always tread lightly into that final weekend before the All-Star break. And I do the same thing in the NBA, by the way. The NBA gets almost a full week off now for the All-Star break, and those guys are as lackadaisical as any athletes come, in my opinion. So you always got to be careful about people looking ahead to the 3 to 4 day vacation. I think it affects losing teams a little bit more than winning teams. Nothing too much jumped out at me. I mean, the Diamondbacks lose to the Dodgers again. Nothing surprising there. What was surprising, though, is that Colorado, the worst road team in baseball, beats San Diego 3-0 on Saturday and then 3-1 on Sunday. Back-to-back big road dog wins. So I guess that theory about the losing team being, distracted looking ahead did not hold up because the Padres, one of the World Series favorites, were apparently the team looking ahead. So we'll see how this All-Star break over the next few days, disrupts momentum from some good or bad teams starting next week. We'll talk about that more in the next couple of days as we head closer to Friday for the restart. Of course, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, NBA Finals Game 3 was last night. I had a strong 5% best bet on the Milwaukee Bucks. It's been just a fantastic playoffs for me on a 41-23 NBA run the past 2 months now. That's pretty much all playoffs. And the Bucks were a strong 5% play for me. It's just a great bounce back spot. The odds makers priced it in. I got it out at 4. It went up to 4.5, 5 as I thought it would. I put it out a couple of days early. But Milwaukee won by 20. So, I mean, the big question is, does Phoenix bounce back now on Wednesday night? Of course, we'll talk more about that. Chris Paul was still the leading scorer for Phoenix. He was a heavy MVP odds favorite after the 2-0 lead. I still think if Phoenix gets this done, as they likely should with the 2-1 lead, Chris Paul wins the MVP. Giannis has been just fantastic overall for Milwaukee. He was unstoppable in the 2 regular season meetings. He had 80 points combined, had another 63, and then had 41 last night. So I've been hard on him over the years. I've said he's a little bit of a phony MVP, but it looks like a 2-man race now, Prez. And instead of betting, either team to win the championship, take Chris Paul or Giannis as your MVPs if you'd like one side or the others. It's really hard to see anybody else winning it from either squad at this point.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Listen, I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. First off, Conor McGregor flew Aer Lingus. Man, that was a injury that I really struggled to watch. I saw it happen and I couldn't watch it again. It was gruesome. Couldn't have happened to a bigger dick. So good riddance until you're healthy. And then I hope you get your ass handed to you again. With that said, it's amazing, man. Like, we need those heels. UFC needs Conor McGregor. We're supposed to like Conor McGregor. He makes us emotional and he makes us want to tune in and watch the fight. But like I said to Viv, if you're going to set yourself up as a heel, then you can't be upset when we want you to get your ass handed to you. Best thing to happen to him was that injury, Steve. He's got another big payday coming on probably fight number 4. Otherwise, I think he would have got absolutely demolished and walked off with his tail between his legs. Fun night of fights, though, man. Did you watch that stuff?
I follow it. As you know, I like the MMA stuff. I like to train myself. That kind of gets me appreciating it a little bit more. But McGregor is an interesting guy. I said this about Rousey years ago. Rousey was a one-trick pony. I know you've got the judo background, Prez, so you can appreciate that. She was dominating those ladies, back in the day. With that really ever thrown a kick, I don't think she ever threw a kick in her career, maybe once.
One arm bar after another.
Exactly. Every finish, arm bar. And it was really a man among boys, even though it was women. It was a man among boys. The rest of the girls weren't that tough back then. And then Nunes, of course, it's gotten a lot tougher since. But McGregor, he kind of felt the same way. He doesn't have much of a ground game, never has. He's very long. And you got to keep in mind, when he was winning these titles, it was the 140 range. His walking weight was like 170 or 180. I mean, this guy was really long for the 140 range. And when we saw him step up to 170 against Diaz, he hit him back in the day with some finishing shots that would have knocked out the 140 guys like Aldo when he caught him quickly.
Yeah.
And the bigger guys he couldn't knock out. And then, of course, at the 155 range, probably his true weight class, he's been outclassed at times as well. Khabib, obviously one of the greatest ever, well-rounded. So, yeah, I think we're starting to see that McGregor was great at times for what he did, but was a lot of hype, kind of like Rousey. They're both kind of one-trick
Well,
ponies, in my opinion.
yeah.
So we'll see how this plays out.
Well, I think McGregor will retire as the best. I can lose a lot of weight and then gain it right back on before the fight of all time.
It's a skill.
Because that's
it's a skill. I mean, it is.
Only. Yeah, that's all he's got. Anyway, man, soccer yesterday, Italy won. Or did they? I don't know. I can't figure this shit out. I mean, I know they have the trophy. They're really proud of themselves because they were able to, finish penalty kicks. Congratulations. Look, they were the best team in the playoffs, and I did actually give them out on the show at 15-1. I was wearing my Azzurri shirt. I was cheering for Italy, but I can't accept. It makes no sense to me, these penalty kicks, and I don't understand why they can't figure out a way around it. Steve, it's not that hard. I mean, firstly, if you don't want your games to end with penalty kicks, why is the 30-minute overtime not sudden death?
Exactly.
I mean, that is like the easiest way to fix it. Just don't, and I understand they'll still, look, there was no goal scored. There'll still be penalty kicks. But the other way to fix it is just allow unlimited substitutions during overtime and let them freaking play. And people are like, oh my God, it could be a 5-hour soccer match. Well, hey, have you ever watched an NHL playoff game?
Exactly.
5 hours seems short. This is the freaking world, the Euro Championship. If you can't watch a 5-hour soccer game, well, then don't. But don't end it the way you ended it. But the bottom line, Steve, what really freaking annoyed me was Twitter yesterday. Dude, I get on and I say, oh, this should be a red card. There was a full-on horse tackle. Like, soccer is so soft that if it's a 15-yard penalty in the NFL, it's a red card in soccer. It was a full-on horse tackle with the guy flying down the field, would have created an offensive scoring opportunity. So I write, should be a red card. I get some guy lecturing me that he is sick and tired of Canadians and Americans talking soccer because we don't know what we're talking about. So I'd like to state that from here on in, only Canadians are allowed to talk hockey. Only Americans are allowed to talk NFL football, baseball, and basketball. And in soccer, I'm confused about, Steve. I would need a list of countries that are or not allowed to talk soccer. Is Greenland allowed to talk soccer? Are people from Australia allowed to have a soccer opinion? I don't know where you draw the line on the soccer conversation, because according to some people, the fact that I'm Canadian, and I'm not Canadian, but they said I was, we're not allowed to talk soccer. What is this shit?
I'll tell you, first of all, you hit on the two things I've always said. And I heard you say it last week. I was waiting the Wings to come on with you all. I think it was Tuesday when you and Teddy were talking about it. But I've said for years now that it makes no sense that you don't end the game when that first goal is scored within the 30-minute window. It is insane. I've said that for years, Press. I totally agree with you there. I like the unlimited substitution. I mean, also, what does hockey do? They go to the 4-on-4 or whatever. I mean, maybe that would help. I don't know. The soccer field is so big. I don't know if dropping players would necessarily help, but it'd make it interesting. Or at least for that championship game, go no penalty kicks. You're exactly right. I still remember back when I was a Capitals fan back in the 80s, that Saturday night into Easter Sunday, the Islanders and Capitals had like a 4-overtime epic playoff game. And I was listening to it on the radio back then. I didn't have the cable TV. I listened to it till like 2 a.m. and I loved it. I mean, it was just spellbinding. So you imagine a finals like that is sudden death till the end. At least the problem is in the regular rounds and stuff, you don't want teams going literally for 5 hours and they got to play again. I guess I get that. But for the championship game, no excuse whatsoever. And my other idea that you didn't mention is the offside line, like you have in hockey for soccer. Something to think about. Might help a little bit because those offside calls are pretty random as well.
Look, there's a lot of weird shit that goes on in soccer. I mean, I don't understand why they haven't patented the sponge. Could you imagine like how much money they could make if the magic sponge that cured all injuries was available to the general public?
The flopping's a serious problem.
But how are they hoarding the sponge? Like, I mean, if my kid is lying on the ground screaming and crying uncontrollably for 20 minutes, shouldn't I be entitled to just put a sponge on her knee and have her hop
Hallelujah,
up
it's a
and go off to
miracle.
school? Yeah.
And one last thing
Oh
that
my
drives me
God.
crazy too. One last thing as a sports fan that I don't like about soccer is the randomness of when the game's in with extra time. Literally nobody but one person in the world knows when the game is going to end. And it always ends when
That
the team
person
kicks it
doesn't
out of
read.
bounds or they don't have a scoring chance. I mean, that's insane. It's like as precise as we
Dude,
are with replays and stuff, like extra time, 4 to 5 minutes-ish on a championship game. And if they don't have a scoring run, we'll blow the whistle then. I mean, that drives me crazy also.
Steve, yesterday at the end of the first half, there was a kick, not a penalty kick, like a kick. I can't remember what it's called, but and they kicked it to the guy to head it in the net, and the ref blew the whistle while the ball was in midair.
Yes,
midair.
That's insane. Yeah, insane.
In the semifinal game, the ref allowed the team to finish their attack. I don't understand this.
Just put it on the scoreboard. Have the exact amount of time on the scoreboard. Say 3 minutes, 35 seconds, and it's ticking down so they know what they have to do. Yep. I mean, it's a simple solution. Boom.
Dan Smith writes, soccer will never be as big as the NFL. Dan, I don't know what world you live in, but the NFL will never be as big as soccer. Come on, man.
Yeah. He lives in the United States.
20,000 times the size of the NFL. Steve, soccer is bigger in America than the NFL. Like way bigger.
Whoa. Hold on. You're talking about participation by 10-year-olds? There's no way among American viewers and sports bettors. I'm pulling my Teddy on you. 16 minutes in, over-under was 16 and a half.
Steve.
It went under.
Steve.
Come on, Prez. You can't tell me that soccer is bigger in the U.S. than the NFL.
Steve, when I look at sports, I only look at participation. That is what sport is. Watching a sport is not sport. Watching a sport is sitting on a couch. Playing a sport is actually sport. And there are, I would say, 10 to 1 soccer to the NFL. Let's bring Andy Lang in. I don't want to hear about.
No, we're on a sports betting show, Prez. We're talking about money. Talking about money, not participation.
Oh, nice deep voice, Teddy. Andy Lang, anything to add on the crap we've been spewing for the last 16 minutes?
No, it's very eloquent. You guys covered it all.
Okay, good. Then let's get into it.
Conversation.
I'm good with that. Listen, man, I'm hungry. Andy, we got the Home Run Derby going tonight, the All-Star game tomorrow. I know you got some picks for us, including a pick on Dustin Johnson for golf. Let's start with the Home Run Derby. Who's going to win it? Why? Tell us how to bet this thing.
Well, real quick, Prez, last week you asked me, why would anybody watch guys turn left in a NASCAR race? Why would anyone tune in for that? And I would like to tell you that I hit my 5% play and I hit both my 3% plays to win 11%. Nice. That is why people watch guys turn left on NASCAR races, because you can absolutely dominate it. We're up 36 units this season. It's a very winnable, bettable sport. And Steve, you back me up on this. You know that there's a lot of money to be made in NASCAR. So, okay, let's get into the Home Run Derby. I think I like Joey Gallo. And by the way, do not go crazy on betting money on the Home Run Derby. This is just to have a little bit of a betting interest in this. So I'll make the case for Joey Gallo. He's at plus 420 on various books. So he's a number 2 seed. So he has the best path to avoid Ohtani, the betting favorite. He should get to him if Ohtani makes it to the finals. Gallo's been hitting a lot of homers recently. Hit 10 home runs in June, and he already has 5 in July. He's a lefty. Wind is going to be blowing out to right field for the Derby. And he has the 3rd highest average home run distance this year in MLB. So when he hits them, he's hitting them a long ways. And here's a stat to dig up. He has a 21.3 degree launch angle, which is the highest in the field tonight. So expect some moon shots and some towering home runs that with the wind should help him. I think the value is on Joey Gallo to win tonight.
Yeah, and once again, Andy Lang is the prop master, and we've got for WagerTalk.com, and of course, Matt Josephs is the prop master for SportsMemo.com. We've got them both on, so this is the ultimate time to talk to these guys because you're right, Andy. I mean, it is kind of a random event, but I do think you still find value with certain guys. I'm going to ask you a big picture question, though, in case I don't get to talk to you before we do the NASCAR show Friday. Looking ahead, are you going to handicap any differently the next couple of weeks with guys that have been in the home run derby? I still feel like some of these guys, not all of them, but some of them start to overswing, change their swing a little bit, especially if they go deep in the contest. As a prop guy, as a player prop guy, is that something you're going to keep an eye on here over the next couple of weeks?
One way to look at it is if you do see a guy who's a big name in a lineup start to struggle a little bit, you might look at opposing pitchers' strikeout props. The strikeout props have been really good now that the spin rate is different on a lot of these guys. And just look what happened to the Atlanta Braves. Acuna goes out with the injury, just a really unfortunate injury. And now that Atlanta lineup has been completely exposed. And so when you get one of the big name guys that is either out or struggling, look at opposing pitchers' K props to go over.
Like it.
Andy Lang joining us, everybody. You can find him at WagerTalk.com. And Andy, Dustin Johnson, British Open this week. I'm excited. How's he going to do? How do we bet Dustin Johnson, man?
Pretty clear.
I mean, we know he won no matter what. He's got Paulina Gretzky.
Yes, he did. He's done well for himself in life. I don't think this week is going to go as well for him. So I'm playing him to miss the cut completely at the British Open. I don't think he sees the weekend. And along with being the number one racing handicapper at WagerTalk, I'm also number one for the 2021 season for golf at WagerTalk. So listen, Dustin has struggled and I call it the British Open. I still can't call it the Open Championship. I just call it the British Open. So if you hear me call it the British Open, just know that's how I do it. He's struggled with this link style golf. His last three finishes at the British Open's 51st missed cut and 54th. That is really not good for someone that spent a lot of time up top as a number one golfer in the world. This guy only has one top 10 finish since 2013 at the British Open, and he had the unbelievable dominating performance at the Masters in the fall. Since then, he has one finish inside the top 10. That was back in February. He had a tie for 10th a couple weeks ago at the Palmetto. That is a horrible field, a completely watered down event where he should have won that tournament by 10 shots, and he couldn't even finish inside the top 10. And he's missed the cut at 2 out of the last 3 majors in 2021. He made the cut at the U.S. Open, but he missed the cut at the PGA Championship, missed the cut at the Masters. I see a struggle for him. This is a loaded field. A lot of European guys are going to be up at the top. They're going to take up a lot of those spots inside the cut. I think he misses the cut this week, and we're getting over 4-1 on this bet. Great value.
Yeah, and Andy, obviously he's a big name guy, and I think a lot of times the public is a little late to notice when guys start to falter off in the later age parts of their career. Just big picture takeaway for me on golf. I know you look at current form, you look at course history, but how differently, being the British Open, do you look at this one since it's such an unusual course compared to the American courses that most of the tournaments take place on? Any other handicapping factors you look at exclusively for this week?
Yeah, there's a couple of big things. There's 3 real big ones. The first stat, if you're just looking at stats, greens in regulation is always a huge stat coming into the British Open. Most of the winners have a really good greens in regulation stat coming into this tournament. So look for guys that are up at the top. Dustin Johnson's 57th. So he hasn't been good about hitting greens. Current form is really, really important. I believe it's 9 out of the last 14 winners have had a win in the season before coming into the British Open. And then it's such an advantage to know the weather over there. And this is going to be on a course where it's right next to the ocean. So the elements are going to be there. The wind does not look too bad, but if it kicks up, you really want these guys who know how to deal with the elements. Just look at Shane Lowry when he got his win a couple years ago. He knows how to play in the wind and the rain. He looked at home and he just wiped the floor with everybody that was uncomfortable with it. So look for guys that play good in the wind and the weather. look for guys that have a really high greens in regulation percentage, and look for guys that have been playing good this season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I find it really strange hearing golf opinions from an American. I don't feel like you should have the right to talk about golf. You didn't invent the sport. So therefore, guys, just rewind and delete everything Andy just said. Anyway, Andy Lang, you've got a prop for us in the NFL, which is not far from starting. Lay it on us.
Yeah, player props were great to us. And in particular, the season-long player props were really good to me. And if your research hasn't started for NFL, you're already behind the 8 ball. So I'm already looking at some of these team totals. Teddy released his iconic win totals, and I'm already looking at a hometown guy. I'm from Indianapolis, and I watch Jonathan Taylor a lot. When you take season-long player props, I don't want to say always. There's like 99 times out of 100, I'm looking at the under. And I'm looking at the unders because injuries can really, really quickly deliver you an easy under win. So when you're looking at these props, just say, well, if he plays all the games, does he go under? Okay, let's take the under, because if you get an injury, we cashed a big one with Roethlisberger a couple years ago when he hurt his shoulder and didn't play. Garoppolo tanked a lot of unders with his injury problems with San Francisco. So I'm going to take Jonathan Taylor under 1,500.5 yards rushing and receiving. So on paper, we look at the season-long stats. He had a good year. He played 15 games. He averaged 5 yards a carry, rushed for 1,169 yards and 299 yards receiving. He's going to be the lead back, no question. He is not alone in that backfield. Nyheim Hines played 16 games last season. Yeah. He rushed for 380 yards, and he is the unquestioned third down receiving back. Caught 63 passes for 482 yards. Here's a good one for you fantasy football players out there. Nyheim Hines was the 24th highest scoring running back in standard scoring and 15th in PPR. If you're drafting and you got a late pick, take Nyheim Hines. This is one of the better values in your fantasy leagues. Also, Marlon Mack coming back from an Achilles injury, but he had a full year to recover. He tore his Achilles in the very beginning of the season. It was September 14th. And he's on a basic 1-year contract. They can use him as much as they want. This is not a long-term asset for the Colts. Mack rushed for 900 yards in 2018 and over 1,000 yards in 19. He's talented. Here's the thing. Jonathan Taylor only had 3 100-yard games all season. He padded his stats in the last game of the season, a completely meaningless game against the hapless Jacksonville Jaguars. He rushed 30 times for 253 yards. So this was not a consistent back all season. You've got a new quarterback. I think they come out of the blocks a little bit sloppy. This is a huge number to get to. I'll take Jonathan Taylor under 1,500.5 yards.
Steve,
yeah, Andy, you touched on
a follow-up?
I was going to say, Prez, I was going to let you jump in because I know you love the NFL. I just wanted to piggyback what Andy said about season props. You always want to default towards the under, whether it be season win totals, player props, or anything, because with player props, in a game also, really, in like a regular season game as well, because as long as they play, that prop has action. And it's normally priced to the average or even to the upside on stars. If anything bad happens, and, we do have the COVID era still. It's going to be around in the fall. So obviously, these guys could miss more games even without an injury than normal. But yeah, he had 1,468 combined rushing and receiving. And also, I think you have to factor in that sophomore slump that a lot of second-year players often have, and there's adjustments made for guys that the league was not familiar with the first time. So I like a lot of angles there. Prez, NFL less than a month away. What are you thinking?
I'm Canadian. I gotta check with Carmine or somebody.
NFL a week away. What you thinking?
Am I allowed to discuss the NFL? I'm not actually. I don't actually live in America. If you don't actually live in America, your Twitter haters might come out and be like, "What are you talking about? You don't know what about." Anyway, I got an announcement to make, everybody. I hope Matt Joseph is listening to this. The NFL presidential address, the second most watched show in the history of Wager Talk, the first show ever put out on Wager Talk TV. Last year, it was Matt Joseph, myself, and Ralph Michaels. This year is a whole new lineup, and none of the people know who's on it. So I am going to announce the lineup. This year's NFL presidential address will be me, Steve, Andy, and Matt.
Wow.
The four of us will be doing the NFL
right
presidential address.
Let's do it right now. Let's get
I
it
will
done.
be doing. We just start right now. Okay, week 1.
Get Matt in there. We got the lineup. Let's roll.
Yeah. So we're gonna do the four of us this year. We haven't figured out when or where, but it's gonna be an awesome show, man. Listen, I'll
You're
host
moving
it
to
because I'm
America.
Canadian, and you guys,
You're
what?
moving to America? You're moving to the United States?
Well, no, I'm just gonna
Great
host the
news.
show. I won't give out any opinions. No opinions.
You
from
can't
me.
opine. You got to cross the border into New York to opine on the games.
Andy, what do you got to promote?
Biggest thing this week is the 4th major of the year, the British Open. Looking to finish off an incredible golf season. And then NASCAR, again, we're going to continue the run. We're hitting over 70% in the last month on NASCAR bets on a 13-3 run. Just golf and NASCAR. It's a slow time of year. You want to pad those bankrolls for football season? Just follow me on golf and NASCAR. You won't regret it. Number 1 on Wager Talk in both sports.
Well said, Andy. Now get the hell out of here. No commercial break, Steve. Let's just keep going. Listen, we got a promo for everybody's. Yeah, we got a promo for everybody's baseball from today until September 4th. You get anyone's baseball package you want for only $199, and that is a massive deal, guys. September 4th is a long, long time away. We charge $199 for a month normally. You guys can get it till September 4th. Listen, Steve, I got to just let everyone know what's going on with me, firstly. I lost my baseball play yesterday on the Milwaukee Brewers. I am now on a 16-3 baseball run. 16 wins, 3 losses. I won my Milwaukee Brewer play, Milwaukee Bucks play yesterday. I was all over Milwaukee yesterday. I am on a 12-2 NBA run. And after a 1-1 Sunday, dude, I am on a 24-6 all sports run. I have won 20 of my last 22 days of betting. Dude, I wish this run was happening in the middle of November, but I have no say when it happens. It's happening now. We're in the middle of it. I've been telling everybody for the last 2 weeks. I keep winning and winning and winning. So make sure to check out when I have a play. Steve, I won't be on tomorrow. You and Rob Vino will be on. We'll be figuring out the guests later today. I do want to let everybody know that we will be talking a lot of golf this week as well, Steve and I, and I'm going to speak to John Ryan. We're going to let's do some investment stuff as well on Wednesday, maybe. I know you and
I think that'd be perfect.
Yeah, you and John Ryan do talk about crypto and stocks and everything on a show. So let's put that into Wager Talk Today this week as well. Let's bring Matt Joseph in. And Matt, I don't know if you heard my announcement, but I hope you're coming back to the NFL presidential address.
I'm very excited. I wasn't sure if I passed the muster the first year I was on, so I'm glad to be back.
You're reelected. You were reelected.
We're gonna do 4 of us this year. We just got to figure out a way to not make it 2 hours long. Anyway, Matt, how you been, man? What's going on?
Doing good. Everything's going well. Doing the strikeout props, doing them very well, and looking forward to a couple days off. You know, baseball's such a grind on a day-to-day basis that it's always nice to have these couple of days to kind of reset, refocus, look over for some trends, and kind of see how you're going to attack the second half of the season.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to do any of that for the next 3 days. I'm going to go dark. Anyway, Home Run Derby tonight. We had Andy Lang on earlier. He likes Joey Gallo to win the Home Run Derby. You've got a few props for us. Longest home run and longest home run in the first round. Let's start there, my friend.
So basically, look, we all know that Rob Manfred is not a good person, and basically he's a terrible commissioner. And so
how do we all know this?
Wait, because
I
all
love
the
that.
baseball
What an
fans,
opening.
he's a terrible commissioner. He does a lot of things wrong. And look,
He's
all
a
he cares about is money.
person?
Yeah,
like a
probably.
terrible person.
I mean,
Like
yeah,
he
he
ate
probably
someone. Like,
well, he probably hates a lot of people. I mean, he called the trophy just a piece of metal. Like, how are you a commissioner of a sport? That's like calling the Stanley Cup just a giant cup that you just carry around. Like, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, look, all he knows is he's got perfect conditions tonight in Coors Field. You've got very warm weather. The wind is blowing out. The humidor is going to be open. You've got some absolute killers here. And what better way to get eyeballs on a sport that maybe doesn't get a ton of eyeballs than juicing the distances just a little bit tonight? I think we're going to see tonight is you're going to see a lot of massive home runs. And what's going to happen is Rob Manfred and the guys who are figuring things out are going to come on and say, oh, let's just add a couple of feet onto these home runs. And here's the example. Let's say that Alonso hits a 520-foot home run. People go to Twitter. They sit there and they say, ooh, Alonso just hit a 520-foot homer. And then a lot of people will go over and start watching the Home Run Derby. If you look back in 1998 when the Home Run Derby was in Coors Field, Mark McGwire hit a 510-foot home run in that thing. And that's before StatCast was around and before we had all the nerd numbers that were involved. So to me, I think there's a very good chance that we're going to see even the first batter or two, a home run over 500 feet for the first round and over 510 feet for the contest as a whole. They're going to juice this thing up so much and make this look so good that I think it's an easy wager if you can find it out there in a lot of different sports books.
Yeah, Matt, I love a good conspiracy theory, and that's why I love the Bucks so much last night as my 5% play in Game 3, because the NBA knows they want that series going longer than this coming Wednesday. But I'm with you. I think there can be some monster home runs tonight. I asked Andy Lang this earlier. I just want to get your big picture takeaway moving forward. Do you factor in and you look for guys over swinging? Do you think this can mess some of these guys up over the next couple of weeks, or are there ways you're going to take advantage of it from props? Andy mentioned, if guys maybe look like they're faltering a bit, look at more strikeout props for the opposing pitchers. What are your thoughts of the Home Run Derby to participants going forward over the next few weeks?
Yeah, basically, being a Phillies fan and watching Bobby Abreu after his Home Run Derby appearance, I forget what year it was many years ago. It's kind of a cautionary tale here, but I think good managers will sit out these guys the first day or two, maybe when they come back, or they'll be quick to sit them on a Sunday if you see something like that. And certainly some of the guys sat these guys out yesterday, so they're getting plenty of rest. I'm not as much worried about, although we are in the elevation. That's why I feel like you're going to see more home runs early on in this event. I think as we go on further and further, you're going to see these guys get a little bit tired. It is the elevation. Outside of Trevor Story, most of these guys are only there for 2 or 3 days at the most. So if you start seeing props that talk about early rounds versus late rounds or numbers for the early rounds, then certainly I think there's going to be a lot more home runs early on than there are going to be later on.
Matt Joseph joining us, everybody. And Matt, I'm still trying to figure out how Rob Manfred's a bad human being. But anyway, that's a different story.
Stay focused,
we got
Prez.
guys
Stay
in the chat room. Guys in the chat room, they're like, he's the worst commissioner ever. I'm like, okay, fair enough. But is he a terrible human being? Anyway.
He hates small
with
animals.
all that said, Matt Olson, what's he going to do? Any bets for him?
Yeah, we have a bet for him. So we have this odd ranking system. The brackets that they made up for this thing, like Salvador Perez is a 4 seed and Pete Alonso, Alonso's a 5 seed. And it's just all these weird things. So you look at Matt Olson and he's got Trey Mancini. Mancini's the higher seed of the two, so he's probably going to go first. I don't think Mancini's going to do very well. And as long as he gets around 17 or 18 home runs, you could take the under on Matt Olson at 19.5 because all Matt Olson has to do is hit one more. So he's got the advantage here of knowing what he needs to do. I think there's a chance Trey Mancini doesn't do very well. And if all Matt Olson needs to do is get one more than him, I'll take the under on Matt Olson because he's just not going to hit that many home runs. If the order was flipped, and let's say Matt Olson was going first, then I wouldn't take it the under here. But since he knows how many home runs he's going to need by the time he gets up, and I think Trey Mancini is going to be poor, his number's 16.5 in a lot of places, I'll take the under for Olson that all he has to do is get one more than his opposition.
Yeah, Matt, I love how
Steve?
you're breaking this down. You know, Prez and I at the beginning of the show, where the Prez was saying, how can he handicap the home run derby? And we're showing it right here. I mean, you and Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com, Matt Joseph, SportsMemo.com, the prop masters at each site. And I love the logic there. You know, a guy doesn't have to hit a lot because he goes to the next round. Also like the altitude angle. That's something that hadn't been mentioned today. These guys might fatigue more in the later rounds than at a normal stadium. By the way, the wind right now I'm seeing is blowing across at about 5 miles an hour, slightly in from left field across the first baseline. So doesn't look like wind's going to be an issue. Matt, before I throw it back to Prez, I got to leave it with this. I want to get your thoughts on international soccer. Your thoughts on international soccer when you throw it back to Prez here. Let me know.
As opposed to domestic soccer?
Yes, because that's the biggest sport in the U.S.
Last night. I didn't. I saw there was a soccer match yesterday. I was too busy watching baseball, so I didn't actually pay attention. But I saw that a bunch of guys missed penalty kicks, and one of them was a teenager. So I feel really bad for that guy because I'm sure the country will treat him very well. Much like how Philadelphia treats Ben Simmons, I'm sure this country will treat that teenager very well because he missed a penalty kick.
Yeah, my heart breaks for a teenager about to embark on an incredible life of money and women. Yeah, just I feel terrible for the guy. What? I heard he's a terrible person. Rob Manfred just tweeted out that he's a terrible person. Terrible. Yeah. Don't feel so bad, Matt. He's got a better life than the three of us combined. Anyway, what a show. I'll tell you, Steve, I mean, Andy and Matt, like I love their thought process. I love hearing, you know, they're not just picking stuff out of thin air. Like this is well thought out stuff. So, yeah, Matt, Joe Esposito keeps saying, ask Matt about the Phillies. Ask Matt about the Phillies. Do you have anything to say about the Phillies? I don't know why. Like, are you a special Phillies guy or something?
Well, hey, Matt, that NL East is wide open. Do your Phillies have a chance? I guess that's how we'll
Yeah, I think they do. They have the best lineup in the division now that Ronald Acuna Jr. is hurt, but they don't have the pitching. So they're the team more than anybody else that if they get a Chris Bryant or a Craig Kimbrell, I certainly think the Phillies can win the division. Problem is their consistency is an issue, and the 4 and 5 in their rotation are terrible. So they more than anybody else need to make a trade in order for something to happen here. By the way, last thing on the home run derby, don't bet Ohtani to win the whole thing. You're burning your money. He may win, but the value's not there. It keeps plummeting. I saw as low as 2-1 for Ohtani to win the whole thing. Like, there's better ways to spend your money than to put it on the favorite. Because guess what? There's no edge. He may be the best home run hitter of anybody out there, but that's not a guarantee. He could have a down night. Somebody else could have a really good night. So if you're thinking of betting somebody to win, bet almost anybody other than Ohtani because it's just not worth it at this price.
Nice. Yeah, I you know, Joe's a good listener of ours, and he did ask a specific question. Prez asked Matt what he thought of the Phillies being a money line underdog, but being assigned the -1.5 run line. That does not happen very often. How did that come about?
Well, I think it was yesterday, and that was before Nola got scratched due to the COVID issues. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it was like 110 in both directions, and so they flipped it, and they just didn't flip the money line, the run line. So yeah, it rarely happens. But of course, the Phillies did get the win yesterday. I think it was just because it was such a tight line, and they didn't have a chance to flip the run line in time.
Yeah,
there
Prez,
you go,
I'll
Matt
jump in on
Joseph.
that real quick. Let me jump in real quick on that. Yeah, usually that happens when it's around a pick 'em, you know, and the money moves one way. They don't flip the +1.5, -1.5, but some books do. You know, some books will flip the run line, but most of the time they just start adjusting the money line juice on that run line, and that's probably what happened yesterday. And like Matt said, it's usually an injury or a substantial move on the game itself.
There you go, Joe. Awesome stuff, Matt Joseph, Steve Merril. I'm Lawrence Presman. Tomorrow's show, Steve and Rob Vino. Andy Lang will be back to talk golf. We will have a second guest as well. Wednesday, Nick Borman talking golf. Arthur DeCesar joining us. We're going all week, guys. Stay with us. Steve, great first day, dude. Me and you for the next 3 weeks. I'm excited. Thanks
awesome.
Thanks for doing this. And guys, we'll see you all tomorrow, noon Eastern. I'm out of here.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. All daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including $40 5% best bets. As an added bonus, all new users will receive $25 in wager bucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.